ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا فمن يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة. عباد الله، قال الله سبحانه وتعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding the believers, and He said, "Oh, you believe, protect yourself and protect your family, protect your loved ones, protect the people that you are a guardian for them in this dunya." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding the believers to protect them from the hellfire that is being fueled by people and stones. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that this hellfire is being manned by angels, that they will never disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah also reminds her in another verse where He said, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تلهكم أموالكم ولا أولادكم عن ذكر الله ومن يفعل ذلك فأولئك هم الخاسرون. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in this verse, reminding again the believers not to be distracted with their money, with their wealth, and their children, to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we do that, we'll be among the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, al-khasirun, at the one that who's going to lose in this dunya and the day after judgment. Wal-'iyadu billah. Brothers and sisters, as we know, inshallah, next Friday will be the first Taraweeh. We're all going to pray the first Taraweeh, inshallah. The goal is for us is to really reach that taqwa. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that Allah decreed siyam on us just like the one before us to achieve taqwa. Now there are so many ibadat that we can do. But there is one ibadah, it seems sometimes is one of the hardest things that we do as Muslims. And there are some struggling and some doing, mashallah, they're doing great work with it. And this ibadah is one of the closest things to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the most beloved act that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. And it's a proof, it's burhan. And that is a sadaqah. A sadaqah. Do we really live our lives and program how we live according to the teaching of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam about the sadaqah and the benefit of the sadaqah? And if you and I, the day of when we pass on, the first thing we're going to say, Ya Allah, oh Allah, let me go back so I can give sadaqah. How do we know that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَنفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَأْتِيَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي لَوْلَا أَخَّرْتَنِي إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ قَرِيبٍ فَأَصَّدَّقْ. Sadaqah. Then why I am not up to speed? Why am I not programming my life? Why I'm not proactive to give sadaqah to protect myself? Knowing the sadaqah will ease the heat of the grave. Knowing the sadaqah will be the shade above my head the day of judgment. How do we know? Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam taught us. كل امرئ يوم القيامة في ظل صدقته أو كما قال رسول الله حتى يحكم بين الناس أو يقضى بين الناس في رواية أخرى, that everybody will be under the shade of his sadaqah. Now, why won't I invest in that? Why don't I budget my life, my money, my everything that I do based on that? Proactively, not reactively. From the best that I have, from the things that I love most. And that's money. Not old clothes, not old shoes. You stuff them, I stuff them in a trash bag, and I take them to the masjid. People of Syria need help. Stuff those clothes, old jacket, old people in Yemen, stuff those things in a trash bag, take it to the masjid. Take it where people need it. Take those old plates, old glass, everything. Is that the best I have? لن تنالوا البر حتى تنفقوا ما تحبون. It's as simple as that. What do you love? What do you protect? What are you holding back? Why? Why are you holding it back? Why am I holding it back? Knowing that I am the only one who will benefit from it the day of judgment. I am the only one who will be protected from the hellfire the day of judgment. Because of that sadaqah. As-sadaqatu burhan. So how? How can I live in that environment and form a behaviors and a plan in my life to become one of the people that whom the al-mutasaddiqun? Who? How? This is what we do every day. We get our checkbook, we look at our online banking, we look at, okay, I'm going to pay my cable. Please do not pay for cable. Disconnect your cable. Take that money and put it for the masjid. Because it's a waste of time. And a waste of money. And to a degree, and this is just my opinion, it could be at the cusp of that something you might not really, it might be harmful for you. Just pay attention to how you spend your money, where you spend it. You invest money for entertainment. You invest money. You spend money for entertainment. You spend money on things that it's worthless in so many times. We all do, but do we plan for sadaqah? That's the question. That is the question. And do we really love Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam? If I love Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and I say I am a Muslim, then why don't I follow the teaching? Listen what Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, for us that we fear poverty, we fear that we might not have enough for our children. Wallahi, nobody will take care of your children. Not you, not your money, not what you're worth, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many wealthy people left money for their kids went broke the first year. Broke the first year. They spent the money in haram, and they spent the money and they lost it. What you leave for your children is taqwa. What you leave for your children, knowing Allah, loving Allah, doing the good things. But you have to do something for you. كلكم آتيه يوم القيامة فردا. Everybody will be individually coming in. Now why you worry about by holding that extra $1 or $10 or $100, $200? Why? Listen to a Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Bi'abi wa ummi anta ya Rasulullah. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليك يا رسول الله. قال الله يا ابن آدم أنفق. يا ابن آدم أنفق. O son of Adam, spend. Spend for the sake of me. Give sadaqah. أنفق عليك. How beautiful is that? How beautiful is that when you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if you spend for the sake of me, I'll spend for the sake of you. I will give you money. I will give you money. Not spend for the sake. I will give you. I will replace it for you. Sadaqah is protection from you from illness. Sadaqah, as I mentioned, is your shade the day of judgment. Sadaqah is proof of your iman. One time I was listening to this, I forgot the brother, who is doing, and I don't like to call it donation. It's a night of giving. It's sadaqah. When somebody stands in front of you and asks you to give money and give, it's for you. And this brother, he said, give till it really hurts. And I was just like, what does that mean? And it's really sometimes you have $1,000 in the bank and you are in an environment of giving, and everybody gives, and all you have is $1,000. And you give that $900, and you can feel it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you for it. Story of a brother was in Philadelphia. This brother was about to open his own store. He will open his own store. I pray with this brother all the time. I know his story. I know him. I know his family. He was telling me that he walked into the masjid. Small masjid is just like in a shopping center or something like that. And he said, I have $25,000 in the bank. And I was about to sign a lease for my grocery store that I was about to open. And he said he walked in, was listening to Khatib, and the Khatib was in tears because the place will be shut down. The landlord wants the money or they're going to kick him out. And I was just like, I don't know. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought me here to hear this khutbah to Jum'ah. And he gave all his money. The $25,000 he gave it. And he walked to the place and he told his family, we're not going to move forward. And he walked into with the realtor of the agent, and he told him that he doesn't have the money anymore and he does not want to sign the contract. At the end of the story, he ended up opening his business. The realtor gave him a break, and the landlord gave him a break several months to come up with the money. This brother have several franchise and restaurants. This brother makes a lot of money right now. Now how did that happen? Because you put your heart, your money, you put everything in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing you will be rewarded for it, knowing Allah will protect you. So what do I do this preparing myself for the month of Ramadan? How can I become mutasaddiq? How can I know the day of judgment when I meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I know my sadaqah will protect me. Then it has to become a habit. It has to be organized. It has to be planned. It has to be intentional. It cannot be reactive, and cannot be from the things that at the bottom of my house, that I shove it in a trash bag and give it to the needy and to the masjid. It has to be the best that I have, that I can hand it and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for reward. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to teach my kids about sadaqah. One thing that we miss the opportunity is to share with our kids about sadaqah and how we can give and when we need to give and the benefit of it. We have to change our approach. We have to change how we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this dunya, we cannot just collect the money and know for a fact we are custodians of that money. We are custodians of the money. You are not, and I'm not the owner of the money. We are custodian. Remember where the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the ayah, وَأَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا جَعَلَكُمْ فِيهِ مُسْتَخْلَفِينَ. Custodian. You will not take the money with you. Why take nothing with me? Remember that. So then the question becomes how I benefit from this money that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made me custodian is by proving that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by acting on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands and the teaching of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. أسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يجعلنا من المتصدقين. أسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يبلغنا رمضان لا فاقدين ولا مفقودين. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Now why I'm telling you this? Because that's our deen. And because after Salah, I'm going to ask you to help this community center, this masjid, to provide the beautiful environment for you and I and our family and our community, and that's Iftar Sa'im. We are behind, but we're going to ask you, so don't rush after the Salah. I'm going to ask you to give to Iftar Sa'im. to give ta'am. Now, giving ta'am is one of the most beloved act to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just think about this hadith. We all know this hadith where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said, Afshu salam. Increase greeting people. When you see people, greet them more. Kalimatu tayyiba sadaqa. Al-ibtisama fi wajhi akhiki sadaqa. Wa at'imu ta'am. And feed. Feed people. Give them food. وَصَلُّوا بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّاسُ نِيَامٌ. And pray at night. While people are sleeping, making dua, making istighfar, making tasbih. تَدْخُلُ الْجَنَّةِ بِسَلَامٍ. That you're going to enter Jannah. And in another narration where Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, وَصِلُوا الْأَرْحَامِ. So the question becomes, what do I do with the money that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made me custodian? If you look into so many verses about it'am al-ta'am, you will never know who's coming for the iftar. It could be somebody broke, somebody lost their job, somebody lost their father, somebody lost their husband. They have nowhere to go, but they know they can go to Dar Al-Hijrah and eat iftar in the month of Ramadan. On top of and I know, if I give iftar, I get exactly the same rewards of that saim. How do I know? Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us about the reward or iftaru saim. You get exactly the same reward, and it will not be taken any rewards from the saim. So why don't I take benefit and advantage of that? Brothers and sisters, this is not about iftaru saim only. This is about our behaviors, how we build our taqwa, how when we prepare for the day we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sadaqah become part of our worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It cannot be reactive. It has to be proactive. You heard me say that over and over in the previous khutbah. But we have to plan for it. Every month, you have to make a plan to give it to the masjid, to give it to the needy. But you have to make sure that you understand you're doing a worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and one of the act that the most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala an yaj'alna min al-mutasaddiqeen and yaj'alna min al-salihin al-muslihin. I ask you before we inshallah make dua, we have a sister who passed away, and her son is here, Brother Ahmed Jalal. Sister Jamila Ho, I believe, forgive me, I mispronounced the name. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala an yaghfir laha wa yarhamha wa yaj'al qabraha rawdatan min riyad al-jannah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala an yabdilha daran khayran min dariha wa ahlan khayran min ahliha. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala an yaj'alaha fi 'illina ma'a ash-shuhada'i was-salihin wa hasuna ulaika rafiqa. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمغفرة الدائمة. اللهم إنا نسألك قلبا خاشعا وعينا دامعا وعلما نافعا. اللهم فرج هم المهمومين يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اشف كل مريض يا أكرم الأكرمين. اللهم ارزقنا اليقين يا الله يا قوي يا متين يا فعال لما تريد. اللهم إنا نسألك يا رحمن يا رحيم يا واحد يا أحد يا صمد حسن الخاتمة. اللهم احسن خاتمتنا في الأمور كلها. اللهم واحسن خاتمتنا في الأمور كلها يا أرحم الراحمين. واجعل آخر كلامنا لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. وأنت يا أخي أقم الصلاة.